What did the nuclear physicists have for lunch? Fish and chips! Hey guys, welcome back to the Stimulus. I'm Steph, and here's what happened this week in STEM. Our first story of the week deals with SpaceX and Elon Musk, because what news doesn't anymore? On Wednesday morning, SpaceX had a successful test of its Crew Dragon capsule's launch abort system. In the event of a catastrophic failure during a launch that might endanger the lives of the astronauts, this is the system that will literally rocket them to safety. The launch systems used by NASA and the Soyuz today typically have an abort system that's housed above the crew capsule, so it has to be jettisoned before reaching orbit. This limits the window of escape that astronauts have during launch. One big benefit to SpaceX's concept is that it doesn't have to be jettisoned until after the vehicle reaches orbit. This gives a larger amount of time for the astronauts to be able to escape in the event of a failure. SpaceX's 8 Super Draco engines embedded in the walls of the capsule allow for the astronauts to abort all the way up until orbit, extending the amount of time that they have to abort in the event of a failure. If the system isn't used, which is ideal, the engines can be used for a hard landing so that the system can be reused on later launches. Now, if you've been paying attention to SpaceX at all in the news, you know that reusability is a big deal for them, and rightly so. By utilizing reusable components during launches, you can greatly decrease the cost of spaceflight. Each one of the 3D printed engines provides around 15,000 pounds of thrust. So 8 times 15,000, carry the 1, you get roughly 120,000 pounds of combined thrust from all 8 engines. This test was actually the first time that all 8 engines had fired in unison to launch the 8-ton Dragon capsule. The engines fired for about 6 seconds, and this was enough to launch the capsule 1.4 miles, or about 2.2 kilometers, off the coast and into the Atlantic Ocean. According to Elon Musk, who held a press conference after the test, the vehicle accelerated from 0 to 100 miles per hour in 1.2 seconds. Or, as Drake would say,
0 to 100
Dragon.
real quick.
Musk's choice of adjective, however, was the term zippy, which I really hope they add to the data sheet. What is the acceleration rate of the launch abort system? Zippy. Zippy ranks right up there with thingamabob for me in my technical jargon. The top speed reached by the capsule was 345 miles an hour. The super important part of these results is that Elon Musk stated that had there been a crew on board, which there wasn't, they would have been completely fine. Probably not comfortable since they would have been experiencing 4.5 G's of force, but fine. So what's next for the launch abort system? SpaceX has plans to conduct an in-flight abort test and to eventually send an uncrewed capsule to the International Space Station. All of this is going to have to take place pretty quickly because SpaceX plans to start ferrying astronauts to the International Space Station as soon as 2017. Our next story deals with NASA. Now I know I talk a lot about NASA because, let's face it, I'm a space geek, self-admitted, I own it, whatever. But not all of the technology that comes out of NASA is used for space. In fact, this week some of the tech developed by NASA was able to save lives right here on Earth. This week, NASA's portable radar unit, Finder, was able to help rescuers find 4 men buried beneath the rubble of building collapses that were caused by the 7.8 magnitude earthquake that struck Nepal on April 25th. Finder was developed jointly by NASA and the Department of Homeland Security back in 2013. The system is based on technology used to monitor spacecraft. Finder's core consists of a system that bounces around microwaves in order to detect things. And it can be used to detect human breaths or even heartbeats of people buried underneath rubble. In early testing, Finder was able to detect human heartbeats beneath 30 feet of rubble behind 20 feet of concrete, or from 100 feet away in an open space. Now, that's all fine and dandy, but can it detect a human heartbeat beneath a layer of carbonite? Asking for a friend. Since 2013, the device has been upgraded such that it can give an accurate location within 5 feet of the actual victim. And in situations like Nepal, getting within 5 feet of a victim could be the difference between life or death to that person. While the device is only in prototype phase, once the quake hit, 2 prototype units were shipped to the village of Shatara. There, they were able to find 4 men in 2 separate building collapses. Now, there may not seem like much. The death toll is currently at around 7,500, and it's still growing. But it's technologies like these that give us a glimmer of hope in our darkest hours and potentially lead to a much smaller death toll. Thanks to Finder, 4 people will be able to return to their families, and I think 1 person being saved on account of this technology is worth it. Moving right along to less dark and more cheerful things, at least for biology majors. A series of papers published in Cell this week suggests that a 6 DNA base that plays a critical role in genome development has been discovered. Now, heading all the way back to your biology days, which you may or may not have paid attention to in high school, there are 4 major bases that make up DNA: adenine, thymine, cytosine, and guanine. But you already knew that. What you may not know is back in the early 1980s, a 5th base was discovered in the form of methylcytosine. It was discovered that methylcytosine is the main cause behind epigenetic mechanisms. This This means that it can turn genes on or off based on the physiological requirements of the tissue surrounding it. Now, a potential sixth base has been discovered in the form of methyladenine, which, as you can guess, derives from adenine. It is thought that methyladenine also helps determine the epigenome and plays a crucial role in the life of cells. According to Manella Steller, one of the lead researchers on the project, it was initially thought that methyladenine only existed in very, very primitive cells, like bacteria. However, this research shows that it may be found in more complex cells as well, like the ones found in the human body. Now, the study has only been able to confirm that methyladenine does in fact exist in the DNA of worms, flies, and algae. The hope is that future research will confirm whether or not methyladenine exists in mammal cells, like our own, and determine what role it plays in our genetic development. Our last story of the week deals with zombies. Again, zombies are apparently becoming more and more popular in the science world. Somebody make sure that Brad Pitt and Norman Reedus are on standby. We might need them sooner than we think. Israeli chemists have discovered that by killing bacteria with silver, you turn their corpses into tiny pathogen-killing machines. Now, silver isn't new to the medical world. In fact, it's been used for centuries. The earliest known use was by ancient Phoenicians who used it to purify their water supplies. In World War I, silver nitrate was used in order to keep soldiers' wounds from getting infected. While antibiotics have somewhat taken the forefront for treating infections, more and more antibiotic-resistant strains of bacteria are popping up all over the place. So it might be time to go back and reevaluate our use of silver in the medical field, especially since bacteria can't develop a resistance to it.
David Abner, a researcher from the Hebrew University of Jerusalem, explains, if you take an antibiotic, it is totally destroyed when you take it. Silver remains silver.
For the experiment, researchers exposed this bacteria that I am not even going to try to pronounce because I will butcher the crap out of it, to silver nitrate. As expected, the silver nitrate killed off the bacteria, and then their teeny tiny little corpses turned into teeny tiny little sponges and soaked up all the silver out of the solution. The researchers then took these silver-soaked bacteria corpses and introduced them to a new solution of this bacteria once again. In order to achieve equilibrium, the dead bacteria released the silver into the solution and it killed all of the new bacteria that were still alive. While this experiment worked way better than expected, we're still going to need a lot of research to determine the viability of this method. In the meantime, researchers are still debating whether or not zombie is a good thing to call them. While yes, they're technically not reanimated and there's nothing undead about them, they're just dead. I think zombie has a much sexier ring to it, especially in terms of pop culture. Zombies aren't sexy. No, nothing cute about zombies. So now we've had zombie stars and zombie bacteria. So our question of the day is, what is the worst thing that you could think to be zombified or undead? Let me know in the comments down below. If you're really into sciencey stuff and you want to see more videos like this, feel free to give this video a big thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. I'm putting out videos every Saturday and every once in a while on Wednesdays. If you want to get more information on any of the stories that I covered today, I will include my source links down below in the description along with all of the links to my social media, so feel free to check those out in your free time as well. Don't forget, if you find any really cool STEM-related news stories throughout the week, feel free to tweet them at me at StephEvs43 on Twitter using the hashtag TWISTEM, and there's a chance that they might wind up in next week's show. I also did a really fun unboxing video this week for STEMbox, so if you want to check that out, click this annotation and it will take you on over there and you can see what it looks like when Stephanie is aggressively mashing strawberries. But that's it for this week in STEM, guys. I hope you have a wonderful weekend and I will see you next time. So bad. Finder, health risk. Oh yes, Mr. Attitude. Loki is. Hey, don't you bark. Don't start this. Person with the motor being real loud, and I know my camera picks it up. I'm not drinking, I swear. It's a lot of OJ though. Cytosine. Thymine. It was discovered that methylcytosine is the main cause behind epigenetic mechanisms are off based on this requirements on the tissue. Discovered in the. Stop looking at trees, but I like trees. Nobody likes trees. We are Groot. I don't know. God. Ugh, that's so bad. Mammal. Say it. Mammal. Mammal. Ah. Mammal. I don't know. I really don't.